Hello, it's Jennifer from heysealemon. So you guys know that I recently got a Cricut Maker, and I've mostly been using it for DIY stickers, but I wanted to experiment more and explore if I could make good book covers with it. I'll take you through my file setup and compare some different chipboards, and I want to state that I am a beginner at using this machine, so if you see something in this video that isn't quite the standard way of doing something, that is just how I learned to figure something out for myself. I definitely recommend checking out their YouTube channel because they have some good tutorials. That's where I learned, and there's also some good YouTube channels that go over a bunch of Cricut stuff. I will link all of those down below, and let's get into this. Starting my project in Cricut Design Space, I laid out my coverboard measurements and shapes using just simple squares and circles. I already knew the measurements I wanted to make my covers, so I just plugged those in on the top toolbar. And the binding holes you see are 2mm circles spaced 1 inch apart. And since this is just a cut project, it doesn't really matter what color the shape is because it's not going to print that way. But you can easily change what kind of project your shape is if you want it to be a score project, if you want it to draw, or if you want it to cut, or if you want to make it a print project and then cut. There's a lot of possibilities. So I have my spine piece and a cover, and I'm going to duplicate that to make a back cover. So these are the shapes that I want my machine to cut, and I'm going to hit make it, but you'll see that the circles that I made for the binding holes are now separate. They're up there and they should be on the board that I made. Right now it thinks that I want to cut every single shape separately, and that's not the case. In order to keep that placement of layers, I need to attach them. So I have to remember to select all the layers I want to stay together, hit attach by right-clicking, or it's also at the very bottom of the menu bar. Hit make it, and now all of those binding holes are in the right place. And you can see on the left that it's divided my project into 2 cuts. And something else I learned is that no matter where you place your shapes, the design space will decide where the best placement is. So on your canvas, you can have it all laid out the way you want, but as soon as you hit make it, it's going to decide the best fit and placement of where to put things. Something else I want to try is making a cutout design on the front cover. Design Space already has some simple shapes I could try, like a star, but I want to do my own, so I uploaded my own cactus drawing. It gives you an option to save it as a print and then cut image, or just a cut image. I use print and then cut images for my stickers, but this is just going to be a cutout, so I'm saving it as a cut image. Now I'm going to upload that image to my canvas and scale it down to fit on my front cover. And since I want it to cut the cactus in that exact spot, I need to attach it to all of the layers that it's on top of. Hit make it, and everything is in the right place. It's going to divide my project into 2 pieces of chipboard. Hit continue, and the next part is to select the material I wanted to cut. I'm going to browse for the heavy chipboard. It's right here, heavy chipboard, 2mm thick. And based on the material you choose, it will tell you which attachment to put on the machine. So the first time I did this, I used the wrong mat for my material, and I let it pass too many cuts on my project. Like I said, I'm a newbie and mistakes are bound to be made, so this was definitely a learning experience, and I'm gonna go over some of the mats so you don't make that same mistake. Cricut makes a mat that is specific for fabric, and they have a light grip, which is what I cut through, and that is for lighter paper materials. And then they have a standard grip mat that is more for like cardstock, a little bit thicker than a light paper, and a strong grip mat, which is what I needed to use for my heavy chipboard, and it's also used for wood or other thick materials. I'm going to experiment with a couple different chipboards in this video. The first is Cricut's heavy chipboard. It comes in 11 by 11 inch squares, and something else I learned the hard way is to always tape down any chipboard I use on the mat. Otherwise, it will rotate or get the blade stuck, and it's not fun. Before I load it into the machine, I need to make sure all of the star wheels are pushed to the right. Otherwise, it will leave an impression in the thick material. The mat is loaded and ready to go. It's using the knife blade to cut through all of those shapes that I laid out, and on my computer it shows how many passes it has to go through to cut all the way through the material and how much time is remaining. Now, I think this number of passes is an estimate because the last time I let it cut 20 times, it went through the mat. I'm thinking this also may depend on how sharp the knife blade is. Mine is pretty new, so it's pretty sharp. I later read that to prevent this on long projects, you are supposed to pause it and check if it's cut all the way through. If it's not, you can resume your project, and if it is, you can just unload the mat. And through some trial and error, I found to cut through my 2mm board, it needed 10 passes. Any more than that, then it would start to indent the mat below it, and eventually it will cut through. I don't know if this is standard, but it also may vary depending on the complexity of your project and if you have a different type of machine. After my board was cut, I did have to poke out any excess material in the binding holes and clean my mat for the next load. The Cricut brand chipboard cut fairly nicely, as it should because it's made for that machine, but I wanted to see how it cut different chipboard and how they compare. Since I have a lot of art pads, I like to use the backing that it comes with for bookbinding projects. I think it works great for covers, and if you want more sources for Bookboard, I will link some in the description below. This chipboard is the same thickness as the Cricut brand, 2mm. I taped it down to the strong grip mat and also cut the same cover design on it. When I removed the masking tape, I did notice that it removed some of the top layer of the standard chipboard, but with the Cricut board, it's a little bit more smooth. I don't know if it's coated in something different, so next time I used a standard chipboard, I used a delicate surface masking tape to prevent this. Other than that, both boards cut pretty much the same, and I think either one is a good option for Bookboard. I also wanted to test if I could cut out a design on a cover that I've already cut. This could come in handy down the line if I just want to add a design to a pre-cut board. So in the design space, I made the actual board cut just a draw line, and I'm going to leave the pen out of the machine so it actually won't make any marks on my board, but it is going to cut the cactus. The trick to this is making sure you leave a border around the cover, because the Cricut will always make a 1/4 inch border around whatever project you put on the mat, so this will make sure that the placement is the same as what is on my canvas. This board is the same thickness as the other ones, and I did the same number of cut passes, and the alignment was spot on, and it looks just as good as the other ones. All in all, the Cricut Maker is a viable option for cutting covers for your bookbinding projects. Some things to consider is that it is kind of an investment and it has a lot of accessories you need to go with it. The time it takes to set up your files and the number of cut passes can vary, and you have to work within the size of board that can go through the machine and the placement limitations. But the Cricut Maker knife blade does make really clean cuts that might otherwise be difficult to make by hand, especially if you're someone that develops pain over time with a lot of use, or if you have a lot of covers to make. Also worth noting, if you had a job like this and you sent it to a print shop, to have a custom die cut or score line can cost you hundreds of dollars, plus print shops usually have a minimum quantity that you have to order to get your job done. So I think this machine could come in handy if you have small custom book projects, or if you want to experiment with intricate designs while still giving your project a clean, professional looking cut. A quick note about the Cricut chipboard. I did notice on the packaging it doesn't say anywhere that it's acid-free or archival safe. So for the bookbinders, I looked into it and I asked their customer service if it is, and they said yes, it is acid-free. So this chipboard shouldn't yellow your books or your paper if you use it for your book projects. I do want to experiment more with this machine in the future, and I will be using these covers for a future secret Belgian binding tutorial, which is coming up, so make sure you are subscribed. We are almost to 1 million C-subs, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you receive notifications every time I post a new video. You can find more videos going over bookbinding substitutes, supplies, and tips all in this playlist right here. A big shout out and a thanks to my patrons and YouTube members. Thank you for supporting this channel. If you want to support more book projects and just more videos in general, go check out those links. All of that is down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!